Hello, everyone. So today we'll talk about the Codacy Analysis CLI, which is a command line interface that enables you to run analysis locally. The agenda for today is the following. So we'll start with a little bit of talking what is Codacy about and how does Codacy analyze code. And then we'll discuss the CLI and how we can use it and configure it, and then see all that working in a live example. So what is Codacy? Codacy is a code quality platform or quality standardization platform. It provides seamless integration with your Git provider. So Codacy can provide immediate code quality feedback as soon as you do a commit or a pull request. It can even prevent merging a bad pull request, and it can save up to 60% of your time in code reviews. Codacy also has a security monitor to help you prepare for audits, and it can flag security issues in your code base. And Codacy has all code quality metrics in one place. So the code quality metrics are security, style, duplication, complexity, and coverage. Codacy offers the largest suite of static analyzers, or tools as we call them, and they cover quality metrics across 40 languages. The tools provided focus on static analysis, code duplication, code complexity, and test coverage. Recently, we added support for Chekhov, which analyzes infrastructure as code languages such as Terraform, CloudFormation, and others. So be sure to check it out. The complete list is in this link, and I think you'll have access to the presentation and the links in the end. And these are some of the customers that we proudly empower. So how does Codacy analyze code? So as soon as you do a new commit, or you push a new commit or create a new pull request on your Git provider, Codacy gets notified. Codacy then clones your code, and by looking at the files, it determines what tools to execute and with what configuration they should execute. And then tools are executed in containers, each tool in its own container in isolation, and each tool with its own configuration. The output of the tools are issues and metrics, and these results are presented then in Codacy's UI. So the Codacy platform only does static code analysis. That means Codacy only analyzes your source code. Codacy cannot execute tools that analyze compiled code because Codacy can't compile your code. So to help users execute tools that analyze compiled code and to help them then submit the issues found to Codacy, Codacy created the Analysis CLI to bridge this gap. So the CLI is a command interface to help you execute Codacy code analysis locally. As I said, you can run all the static code analysis tools like in the Codacy platform, but you can also run other tools that analyze compiled code. One of those tools is Java Spotbugs, which is the tool we chose for our examples. Like in the Codacy platform, local analysis run on containers. The tools run each on their own container in isolation, and you can run a single tool or the whole suite of tools supported by Codacy. You can use the tool's default configurations, or you can use the local configuration file for the tools that is in your repo, or you can even connect to Codacy and use the remote configurations that you have saved there. In the end, you can upload the analysis results to Codacy so that you can keep your code quality metrics centralized, everything in our platform. The Analysis CLI is an open source tool. It's easy to install and configure. It's all in the README, that's in the repo. And the only prerequisite is Docker. So you only need Docker to run it. So how do you use the CLI manually? After installing it, let's say that you install it using Brew, you simply need to, you need to invoke it and then specify that you want to analyze code and specify the tool that you want to run. In this case, Spotbugs, because it analyzes compiled code. And then specify the directory where your code is. In the first case, this execution would look into your code's repository and see if there are any files for the tool you specified. And if so, it would use those configuration files. Otherwise, it would use the tool's default configurations. If you want to use the configurations that you have in Codacy, you can export in your local environment. You can expose there this variable called Codacy project token with the corresponding token. This token can be obtained in Codacy's app. How you can do that, it's in the CLI README. And then you would simply need to run the same command, but you would need to run the same command because the CLI would pick up the environment variable and it would connect to Codacy to fetch the remote configurations. To upload the results to Codacy, you would do the same, except you would specify the upload flag. And you would also need the token because the token also serves to authorize you in using our API. Even if you don't have remote configurations to use, in this case, to upload results, you'd still need the token. So this is like the 101 of using the CLI, but it's not how you would use it in the real world. You would not use it manually. You would use it in the context of your build workflow. That's where it provides the most value. And that's what my colleague Hélio will demonstrate. So let me stop sharing.
Thanks, André. I will start sharing now. Can you see my screen? I bet, yes. So like André was saying, on our GitHub page, you can see all the flags that can be used to run the Codacy CLI. And just to show you how simple it is to extract the API, in the integrations page, you can just generate a new API and copy from it, okay? It's pretty simple. Now, a real world example. So as you can see, this is a simple Pojo where I introduced a simple method with a parameter that is not used in the body of the function, okay? Again, a method that was introduced which has an argument that is not used in the body of the function, okay? So we run the CLI and we could see that Codacy using Spotbugs detected that there's a method that has unused parameters, okay? This is very useful, like André was saying, not only in your build pipeline, but also to analyze before committing. So you can see if there's something wrong with your code before introducing it or making a push into Git, okay? But this doesn't ensure quality per se in your Git repository. For that, you should trust on some tool that might block your PR from introducing this bad code into your Git provider. For that, we choose to use the CLI in a pipeline. I'm going to show you an example of what we are doing here in the GitLab CI. Well, the example is with GitLab, but it could be also with Bitbucket, GitHub Actions, which we have an action specific for it, Circle CI, whatever, okay? So again, like Meira said, Spotbugs analyzes bytecode. So we do a Gradle build on this Java code. We get the latest version of the Codacy CLI, and in this case, we chose the jar version, doesn't matter, you can use the regular binary or the Docker one. And we chose to run the jar version. We analyze the tool spot bugs, the current project here, and we allow a huge number of issues because we don't want the build to be blocked right now. Then the flag to upload these results to Codacy. Okay, the output of this is something like you can see here. As soon as it navigates to the page, we can see the execution on the GitLab pipeline, exactly the same output with the issue that we introduced and results being uploaded to Codacy. On Codacy, we see the 3 issues that were introduced in this commit and a bit deeper on the details of this specific issue. So what was the tool that detected? Where is the issue? Why is this an issue? And roughly how much time it takes for you to fix it, okay? And basically, that's how you should use the Codacy CLI within a pipeline or in a regular Linux or Windows terminal, okay? Yeah, okay, let's go question by question. Okay, Bruno Clement, you could put the token as a parameter for CLI, no? Yes. So CLI allows the token to be in an environment variable or passed as a flag in the CLI. Okay, André might already answer that. Okay, cool. Do we have any other questions from in the chat? Can you mix local scanning? Yes, yes. So from Jake Coleman, yes, we can. There's a flag on the Codacy settings. Sorry, I will. Give me a moment. I will show you how to. Cool. If you can see on my settings, on my general settings, I can enable run analysis through the build server. And then when every analysis that run in the build server will run, we'll push the results to Codacy. And only after the results are received, Codacy will start analyzing the rest of the tools. We'll trigger the analysis in the rest of the tools. Someone asked which Linux I'm using. Well, I'm using Ubuntu with WSL2 on Windows, but that's a minor question because it runs in any Linux distribution that you want. Okay. Yes, Jake, they will combine. Okay. Does the CLI push scan results to the server for every run? Asks Charles Odile. Oh, I think it's Odile. Yeah, it sends, it pushes the results if you're running the CLI in a pipeline. So the pipeline is triggered. Inside the pipeline, you run the CLI with the upload flag, and then the results are uploaded to Codacy. And then Codacy can decide based on your quality settings if you want to block or not the PR or whatever definitions that you have, okay? The local remote scan will be mixed, yes. They will not be mixed, they will be complemented, right? Because both, if you're using the token and uploading the results to Codacy, the code patterns that you have enabled will be shared between the analysis on the CLI and the analysis on Codacy. So it's not a mix, it's like they are complemented, okay? Complemented, yeah. How do you make connection between server and application? Well, it's REST API. Developers might want to get a certain level of code quality locally first. Can this happen? Well, yes. When you run the CLI, you will check the results. So before committing, you can decide manually, but you can also have a pre-commit hook that can take advantage of the CLI and block or not the PR based on, decide or not to push based on that. Make sense? Is there a way to inherit maximum allowed issues from Codacy directly? No, because this is not the same allowed issues that you have on Codacy. It's something that if you want to block on your pipeline, okay? Eric also asks the build step that was shown earlier when it ran the jar file. Is that file available as an example in the repo? Yes, yes. It's not as an example. It's in the binaries that the CLI has. So let me show you here. Sorry. So Codacy has the CLI as a release page, and we have the binary here, okay? Okay, is it planned to provide integrations with the IDEs? That's a very good question. Right now, no, but Codacy, you can output the format of you can format the output of the CLI tool into JSON and make something with it. But right now, no, we don't have IDE integrations. Another thing that we have is on Codacy, you can use configuration files for the tools that we have, that you have. So for instance, imagine that you are using ESLint. If you are sharing and you have a ESLint RC file, Codacy can analyze with the rules that you have in that ESLint RC file, and the CLI will also use that ESLint RC file as well as the IDE. So it's like a workaround for that use case. Okay. Yeah, and no more questions in the chat. Cool. So I guess that this is just an example. Yeah, just coming here to show you as well. I share with you an example for GitLab. For GitHub, we already have a GitHub CLI action that can be used out of the box. So it requires way less configuration than the one for GitLab, Bitbucket, or Circle CI. And that's it. It can be found here in this URL. And well, we were already in the Q&A, so. Any more questions? Yeah, David, there is a plan to have CLI on Windows systems. You can have on the Windows systems if you're using Docker. So since Docker is OS independent, you can use the Docker version of the CLI to run it on Windows environments. Okay.
Well, I think that's the last question, unless, oh, there's actually Carlos who actually also asked in the community. So I'll ask Meira to give a...
Well, so Carlos is asking, so you run the CLI locally, I get the results on text on the console. So the CLI supports several output formats, JSON, text, and Serif. Serif is a standard format for issues. That's, yeah, so you can have those and then output in those formats and then process those, but there's nothing like an HTML or a PDF report. So the second part of the question, it's impossible to make sense because there are hundreds of issues, but I only want issues added on my current branch. Well, the CLI analyzes the code, all the code for the current commit or the commit that you specify, and it will find all the issues there. When you upload to Codacy, that's where you will only see the delta of the commit or pull request, the delta of the issues. That's the CLI does not support that. To have just the delta of the issues and not all of the issues, you need to use Codacy. So yeah, but viewing results locally, you'll always use view all results.
Let me just add something, André. So for those who probably have big projects and the CLI analysis are taking much more time than you have expected, we also added a flag with max memory for tool that allows you to define a new memory limit, which was 3 gigs now, but you can define a bigger limit now, and the tools might run faster, okay? But of course, if you have huge repos, sometimes it will take more time, but that's it.
So answering Wilson's question, are there any rate limits on running the CLI? No, not really. I mean, Codacy does have rate limits on its API, but the CLI does not do that many calls, so you will not hit those limits. And that's only when you're using the CLI to fetch either configurations or to upload results. If you're just using it locally, you won't need to contact Codacy's API.
Is there any more questions? I think there's one more message. Okay, that was Wilson thinking. Okay, Charles has also just asked, are we saying the CLI can target a particular commit?
Yes, there is, where is it? Yeah, so there's a flag when you call the CLI, you can specify the commit UID. By default, it's the latest of the branch you're in, but you can specify the commit.
Yeah, just to add something to what André Meira is saying, that flag that you're passing is the one for identifying that commit on Codacy. So when the CLI does the analysis, you will see everything, like Meira said before, and it will upload the results for that commit on Codacy. And then on Codacy, it will be calculated the delta that is introduced in that commit, okay?
Okay, okay, Carlos. Carlos is asking.
No, Carlos, you have a flag that's called parallel. You can specify the number of tools to run in parallel. By default, it's 2. Can it run all the tools set up on the cloud? Yes, so if you specify the tool flag, you can only specify 1. If you don't specify, it will run all the tools that it can. It looks at your code, it checks the languages, and it runs all the tools that it can. And it will run all the tools that are in the cloud. Yes, Codacy Cloud. Is there any way of making Codacy wait for the coverage upload before publishing the results in PRs? Yes, there is, I think so. I don't know the endpoints by heart. So this is a great question to have to put in our community, because there is a way you can submit the results and then coverage and then say, call an endpoint and say that everything is final. The results are all final, coverage is final, so that you can compile everything. So sorry, Thomas, for not being able to answer here on the spot. I would need to check exactly all the endpoints.
Sorry, Thomas is saying that the build is faster. So one thing that you can do is you can say, like Meira was saying, you can enable the run analysis through the build server, okay? Run your tests in your pipeline, send the coverage to Codacy, and then call that a specific endpoint that will trigger the analysis on Codacy. And that will make Codacy wait for the coverage, not for the coverage, but for that endpoint to be called, to be triggered, okay? Yes, it can be over the CLI. If you send a report over the CLI mimics, the CLI also calls this endpoint, so it would work. Okay.
Cool. How to limit API requests?
Yeah, as I said, there's the API requests we make to Codacy are in a very small number, and there's no way to limit, or there's no need to limit them. So
I think that was answered. Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.